All right. Hi, everybody. It's Mike Cadju from Procurement Foundry. We're back in another episode of original content from the Procurement Foundry. And I am extremely tired. I just flew in from San Francisco on the red eye. So if I talk too much or make mistakes, I apologize in advance. I've got Mike Oliveri with me today from BidOps. I know Mike's probably tired as well. We were at the same conference out on the West Coast, and we got a chance to meet each other face to face. Mike, it was fantastic meeting you out there.
Great meeting you too, Mike. Thanks.
Absolutely. I'm real excited to see what you're going to do today. So that everyone knows, BidOps is part of our pilot partner program. We're really excited about it. There's been a lot of engagement inside of their partner channel already. And we've got an upcoming event on the 3rd where we're going to be talking about a lot more stuff as well. So a lot of interactions with BidOps, both on the digital side and inside of the original content series. And today, Mike and his team are going to, I'm sorry, Mike or Michael? I go by Mike.
I'll take Michael. Thank you.
You'll take Michael? Fantastic. Good. That way we don't get it confused. Michael and his team is going to take you through the BidOps product. As usual, we have, wow, we've got 15 people in here already. That's awesome. So as usual, we've got the chat on the side. If there's any questions on the chat, Michael has asked, I'm already not caffeinated.
You can say Michael.
Michael has asked if we can hold the questions till the end so that they can get through some stuff and show us how their product works. But if, as always, we usually chat on the side in the chat window. If you've got questions for the BidOps team, put them up inside of the chat window. I'll regurgitate them back to the team, and we'll have a great show. I want to talk about what the tool offers. So by all means, ask any questions are not off limits. So let's get this thing kicked off. Mike, a little bit about BidOps, and then let's jump into your product demo, man.
Great, thank you, Mike. Thanks for the introduction. Great to be here, and I'm excited to talk to you today about BidOps and what we're doing that's actually changing the procurement industry. So I'm head of business development with BidOps. I started in September of this year. And it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to staying in touch with folks and working together to drive procurement forward. So with that, I'm going to actually share my screen. I'm going to go through some slides with you guys, and let me do that.
Great, we can see your screen. That's awesome.
Okay, let me do from the beginning. Okay, we still good?
Yep, absolutely.
Great. So BidOps is sourcing enablement for the modern business. Our mission is to align supplier negotiations with operational excellence. Very simply, right? So we see, and I'm sure as all of us do, we found out some of this at the Spark conference. The industry is transforming, not only on the technology side, but on the business side. Enterprises are starting to understand that sourcing needs to move forward and be included as an enabling function to drive cost savings and efficiency improvements to the bottom line of the business. That's why we call BidOps sourcing enablement. So the problem that we're solving, supplier negotiations are expensive and painful. Everyone on this call knows that. They've lived through it. What's driving that? If you look at most organizations today, even those with some form of digitization, they're using e-auctions or some other process. There's still a lot of emailing of spreadsheets and communications going back and forth. So there's data trapped in email chains. There's spreadsheets trapped in email chains, leading to back and forth communications, weeks or months of delay in getting from first quote to award. And ultimately what ends up happening is it creates an environment where large enterprises are really unable to create a competitive process that leads to optimal savings because there's lack of competition through the process. It's too daunting.
Yep.
And our solution to that problem is our AI-assisted supplier negotiations enable better quotes faster. So with our solution, we're optimizing the process for both buyers and suppliers. A big part of how we drive savings is through our anchor price forecast, which, unlike most RFQs, is recommended to the supplier at the outset of each bid invitation. Sounds counterintuitive, right? To what we've learned over the course of our lives is, the first person to name a price loses. That's not the case. There have been research studies that have shown when an anchor price is communicated out to a supplier in a negotiation, the supplier's perception is, this is my starting point. This is what I have to aim for. And they respond very confidently and very quickly. So it creates a scenario where the suppliers are responding out of the gate with a competitive price based upon your previous activity with that supplier. The supplier will bid that price or modify it to their own liking and then submit it. So the idea is what we're doing is we are removing the ambiguity from the process and making it easier for every one of our suppliers to respond with confidence, speeding up the process significantly, which is a benefit to both sides of that equation. So if your goal is to drive savings by getting better pricing, then the AI component of our technology is important. If your goal is to speed up your current processes, we can also do that running a standard RFP. Our platform gives you the opportunity to leverage it as a CRM and control all communications and back and forth responses with your suppliers on the platform itself. Okay, so what we are doing with this third bullet here is we are intermediating the buyer and supplier relationship. We are leveraging data to drive savings. That four-letter word is key to the success for what we're doing through our platform. BidOps AI is constantly improving the platform's ability to negotiate forecasts. We think this is a great use case for AI in the supply chain for three reasons. Number one, it allows us to use large data sets that factor in multiple bid tabulations. So anytime a supplier submits a quote and there are multiple quotes, that's considered a bid tabulation. So it's a distribution of pricing data throughout the platform that you're able to monitor from your buying team. Value added to that is that buyers are going to get insight into the psychometric disposition or persona, the mindset of each supplier. So you can actually measure at scale whether that supplier is cutting you a deal, agreeing with your pricing, or holding hard to their current pricing. And through the platform itself, and I'll show you some of this when we get into it, we actually will measure the supplier's psychometrics and report that back to you. There's three personas that we deal with. There's upstarts, okay? So those are the suppliers that really want to win your business. They're going to be aggressive with pricing. They're going to respond quickly to all of your additional terms and conditions that are not price related, that are custom to each bid. There are also harmonizers. Those are the suppliers that are going to negotiate with you. They'll work with you. They'll flex up and down. And the bulls, and I don't have to define what that is for you. They're the ones that are going to take a hard line and not really work with you on negotiating. And then you're going to be able to see, while you're going through the bidding process, what each supplier's price increases or decreases are throughout the process relative to all the SKUs in each bid. It's really a valuable way to bridge kind of solidifying that relationship with your suppliers. In a recent conversation that I had with Edmund, he was talking about how people tend to contrast artificial intelligence from human relationships, saying it's kind of an either or situation. We don't see it that way. We actually think that given the supplier's ability to quantify things like pricing flexibility, willingness to work together and engage with you, and responsiveness, actually takes all that data and makes it a part of the relationship picture. So you're enabling buyers and their suppliers to become true partners together in the business and creating a win-win scenario.
Right.
You can see from our solution is globally deployed. There are buyers and suppliers in every continent of the world using our solution. And while our focus is, can be primarily on indirect materials, make no mistake. I mean, we do have users that are using the solution for services and contingent labor as well. I'm sure most of the people on this call have heard of the Hackett Group. The Hackett Group is a procurement benchmarking group. And they did a study last year that surveyed thousands of procurement and sourcing organizations. And this is the result of that study. And what this research shows is that there's a significant difference between peer group and world-class procurement sourcing teams. So very simply, let's define peer group. The groups that are actually doing things the old-fashioned way, the emails, the spreadsheets, ending up with a haircut like mine. Okay, so driving yourself crazy, managing all of that communication and volume, versus world-class teams that are actually using some form of digitization or technology and applying that to the procurement process. So you could see, again, there's a world of difference here. Looking on the left side of the slide here, peer groups versus world-class. There's a 30% gap in the amount of spend influenced when you are considered a world-class sourcing organization. So think about that number and think about what that means to a CFO. Think about what that means to the bottom line of the business. Okay, communicating that the sourcing team here is really doing a great job helping us to manage spend, control finances. But it's not just about spend influence, right? It also impacts cost reduction and cost avoidance. So for both of those metrics, you can see here, the difference is nearly double. So as you're thinking about the top line procurement KPIs of savings, cycle time, service levels, understanding the KPIs and sourcing productivity actually is a big factor behind world-class sourcing teams, enabling them to run very efficient competitive processes for optimal pricing and a best total value outcome. We actually believe that our solution can elevate your sourcing team from peer group to world-class. And I say that with the utmost confidence because it's happening. So this is the case study when BASF, one of the globe's largest chemical manufacturers, began using our technology. They negotiated a 3.6 million euro contract for screws and fasteners through our platform. Before BidOps, they tended to renew that contract at the same price year on year for some of the reasons that we talked about earlier. Very inefficient process. Running it through our platform, we were able to deliver a 16.3% savings on that contract, saving them 590,000 euro at the end. Before BidOps, and here we talk about being efficient and actually being able to include multiple suppliers in a conversation like that, BASF collected only one best and final offer per supplier. Running it through the BidOps platform, they were able to collect 2 to 4 offers per supplier using our dynamic feedback process. And here's the big win: much faster, better quotes faster. BASF collected and updated pricing through that contract prior to BidOps. It took 4 to 6 months to get from first quote to award. Running it through our platform, they were able to collect all offers within 60 minutes and make the award in 2 weeks. That's huge and a game changer for the industry. So bringing it home. our unique benefits are all focused on driving better quotes faster. These results here in this slide are based upon feedback that we got from our customers last year when we ran a survey. And our buyers have told us that their suppliers are submitting quotes 5 times faster than they were doing things the old-fashioned way, delivering an 85% reduction in back and forth. So who wouldn't want to see an impact like that on their inbox? And resulting in 15 to 20% savings overall. Now, of course, savings being the key. Our average is about 16.5%, but that's over the distribution of many categories that have run through our platform. So depending on your category, you can expect that level of savings. And again, last but certainly not least, your sourcing team gets a 10 to 15x productivity boost. So what does that mean? If you're running 100 bids a year, you'll now be able to run 1,000 to 1,500 bids a year. So you're making your sourcing team a lot more productive throughout the process. That is it. Mike, I'm open to taking a couple of different questions before we jump into the demo, if that's cool.
Yeah, so I got a question for you. I got a couple questions for you right out of the gate, and I'm gonna tell everybody that's on the Zoom chat, if they got questions as well, pump them out. So your calculations associated with the 16% savings on the BASF quote for screws, right? Okay, it's a little bit of it's not exactly the sexiest topic, but hey, if you can save 16% on screws, God bless you, right? Does that include the amount of what I'll call soft calculation associated with the time from eliminating 85% less chatter?
No, that does not factor in the soft costs. So that's a great question. That's strictly on the lots and line items that were in that bid. But I love that question because, I mean, that has to be the takeaway regarding the additional benefit that we bring is the soft cost and savings of productivity increases.
Because I see it very simply as if you've got a team that's managing 10 million, if you get $100 million worth of spend in, let's say, technology-related goods and services as a category manager, and that person can only get through $10 million a year of category management. I'm just using that as an example. Now you can optimize that and potentially get them 100% spend under management now because you've freed up a lot of time associated with the bid and the renewal process through automating it through your tool.
100%.
All right. So a couple quick questions. One from Mike, another Mike. All right, we're gonna stop having so many.
It could have been a Steve.
I got Mike on chat asking Mike and Michael on the what do you attribute as primary driver for case study results, given they'd previously accept flat or high cost renewals? What do you think of the primary drivers for them in that study?
The primary drivers in that study were savings off of the baseline price based upon what they had been bidding on in the past. So it started with the savings. And the big aha, I mean, we were confident that we were going to be able to deliver the double-digit savings, but the big aha was in the productivity increase as well.
Really? Yeah, absolutely. All right. Another quick question before we get on. Do I understand that the AI function includes benchmark pricing from other companies' bids?
The AI component actually does not, include pricing from other companies' bids. What ends up happening is, as you add more suppliers, as you onboard more suppliers into your supplier database, you're actually creating your own market, okay, where you're allowing those suppliers to respond when you invite them to a bid. And then based upon your interaction with those suppliers is how we determine what their likelihood is to discount based upon the prices that they've submitted in the past. So you're actually creating your own marketplace, which is valuable, right? Because it's real-time data provided by your suppliers. And if you look at that over the course of when people renew contracts, Let's say you're renewing a contract every year. We can all agree that there's been significant impact to commodity pricing for many different reasons across the globe. So those prices can change year on year. Being able to collect that data and having a history of how those suppliers respond to your pricing is extremely valuable to you going forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we got a secondary backup question that says BidOps has a profile data of 100 million in bid history. Does that include data from bids that do not go through BidOps? That was kind of same type of on the same.
Yeah, we're actually kind of north of 100 million now. I'm happy to say that we've grown in the last few months. Good thing. But all of that data is run through the BidOps platform. All of that spend is run through the BidOps platform.
Is this more geared toward, and Juan asks, so that was from Neil. Juan asks, is this more geared towards commodities with clear requirements versus services? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah. I'm sure you'll show us in the demo, but talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, the big win is on commodity items. I mean, because you have specific unit pricing. You have something that you could benchmark against. We do have people that have used it for goods and for services. And as I mentioned before, contingent labor. But the big win that you're going to get and where we see the most value is running commodity items through it. Like MRO, like office supplies, indirect spend categories that we're used to dealing with.
Mm-hmm. I got a follow up to the original question around the baseline and calculations. So Mike says, I understand the baseline and calculations. Let me rephrase my question. Why were they realizing savings now versus being unable to achieve similar results previously, in your opinion?
Yeah, they were able to invite more suppliers to bid on that contract than they were in the past, and then control how many different phases of the bid were issued. So suppliers, the multiple suppliers that were invited to bid on that contract were able to actually submit 3 to 4 different quotes during the course of the bidding. Okay, so that's where they were able to gain benefit off the baseline pricing.
So
they weren't able to do that before.
So let me see if I understand that correctly. Due to the augmentation of time restraints associated with the existing bid team, they were able to expand out their portfolio of bids, which then gives them more leverage to negotiate against that, vis-a-vis your tool.
Vis-a-vis our tool, yeah. And don't forget, the anchor pricing is a key there, okay? So because there was history with those suppliers, okay, they understood. And again, you're leveraging the collective knowledge of your buying group, right? Which is the best value asset you have.
Yeah.
Gaining all that history and actually being able to reach out to the suppliers and re-invite them to that bid. The anchor pricing was specifically communicated to each supplier. So each supplier, based upon their history, got a different anchor price to respond to.
Right.
And that's where the value is of the AI component.
Okay, great. All right, so why don't we shift gears here, swing into actually take a look at the product. You can show us a little bit about how the functionality works.
So when you log into BidOps, this is the screen that you're going to see, okay, starting out with our dashboard. So as an owner, as a buying group, you're going to be able to see each bid request that you have and kind of where they're at in their life cycle. So here you're going to see draft requests. Okay, so those are requests that are being developed by your buying team that have not yet been submitted to a supplier. They're still in the process of being built. These are requests that are actually open for viewing. So there are, other than your internal stakeholders in your buying group, these are requests that actually buyers are able to see and respond to that are currently not closed. Closed requests are exactly what they are. These are requests that have been closed either by your buying team for whatever reason. They're requests that have not been yet awarded. And then, of course, there are awarded requests. You have the ability to build new requests here. And there's a couple of ways you can do that. And I'm actually going to take you through one that I actually built for the Procurement Foundry demo. for today. So, but I want to kind of take you through the flow.
Great.
You're able to create from scratch, and you're also able to create or use copy existing requests. This is extremely valuable here because when you're copying existing requests, you will be able to go into any one of these bid requests that are currently constructed, draft, open viewing, closed, and awarded requests, and duplicate them. So rather than recreate the wheel and reinvent the wheel every year, if you have a request that you issue year on year, you'll be able to copy that request and actually duplicate it, tweak it, and edit it relative to what updates there might be, and actually submit that request. So right there, you can see where that would be a definite time saving for your buying team. So going back to new requests, where you can create from scratch. Okay, you can see here, and that's actually a 7-step wizard that you have. So you'll be able to give your request a title. You know, it's probably good if I actually go back and show you the one that I did for this demo. So let me see here. Where are you? Let's see. I don't have it. All right. Well, I'll start and create a new one. So creating from scratch. So let's call this Procurement Foundry demo. You have a limit of 100 characters here, okay? And then you actually create kind of a description here of what the request is. So typically what you're gonna put in here are, and you have 1,000 characters that you can type in here. You're gonna put the type of category, so maybe let's say that that's MRO. You might put the buyer that's responsible. You might put some of the parameters like when the bid is going to start, but you get the joke, right? It's basically a custom field where you can put whatever information you want in there that starts to define the bid.
Okay.
Okay, we'll continue. And then it's going to ask you in step 3 of the 7-step process of the wizard to assign a bucket of spend. And you'll see here that there are 4 different categories that you can assign. And what I want to point out here is there's throughout the platform itself to kind of help you understand and coach you through the process, there are different icons that you can highlight that will give you an explanation of basically what you're looking at. We all know what direct spend is. We all know what indirect spend is. But you can also analyze tail spend through the application itself. So for purpose of this, I'm just going to scroll through and show you what direct spend looks like. We have some defaults that are built into that. And again, there's the information button that will tell you what the definitions are of those categories. And then there's also the indirect spend category, which is the one that I'm going to use here for purposes of this demo. And my favorite category is MRO. So I'm going to click on that. And going back to the comment about being valuable for commodity items, perfect use case for our platform.
Okay. So
I'm going to continue there. And you'll see that we default to US dollar as the currency choice here. But I'm going to open this drop down up, and you'll see here that we have pretty much every currency in the world is listed as being able to choose that currency. Now, when you actually initiate a bid and suppliers respond to that bid, they will be responding to the currency that the bid has been structured around. FYI, we currently do not have a conversion factor built into here, so you can't convert from a global currency to US dollar at this point in time. And here is the request type. So this is going to let the supplier know if it's a one-time purchase, or is it going to be an ongoing contract? So one-time purchases are typically for, large ticket capital expenditure items, whereas ongoing contracts, and that's what we're going to construct here, is typically for more of the smaller commodity items, like the MRO category that we used in the BASF example.
Okay.
So it allows you to actually type in a calendar start date. We'll put here the 28th. And then the estimated length of the contract. And it allows you to choose weeks, months, or years as your drop down. So I'm going to build this based upon 3 years. And then continue. Now, the purpose of the request is kind of where the rubber meets the road with respect to the AI feature of setting up an event. So if you are planning, and let me actually highlight the button here. Are you planning on collecting pricing information from suppliers via a bidding event? So this is where it gives you a little bit of insight into our AI engine. And I'm going to read this out loud. So this will result in having BidOps' powerful AI engine generate a target price and solicit bids from the suppliers that are invited to bid on this contract via a best and final offer or live multi-round reverse auction. Just provide us with a few details, invite your suppliers, and the BidOps AI will do the rest in generating the anchor price that's communicated to those suppliers. If it's just simply an RFP or a request for just basic information that you're using, you just want to solicit, you would choose no here. Okay? So no is a standard RFP process. But we are going to choose yes. Okay, and when choosing yes, we're basically simulating an e-auction here. So it allows us to turn on a multi-round AI-based auction that's going to deliver dynamic and real-time feedback to the suppliers on how their pricing submissions compare to your expectations. So it's going to present them with their ranking. Now, I will say this. No one is going to understand whether or not they're in first place for obvious reasons, right? If they are in first place and they already know it and they're sitting there for quite some time, they're probably not going to be willing to flex and negotiate any further, right? So we don't communicate kind of where they're at on the first place scenario. It's going to give suppliers that are invited to this bid constant feedback on the pricing that they're submitting and whether or not it's acceptable to you relative to your targeted baseline. So we can actually schedule a specific number of rounds. You can actually set the duration time for each round. In the BASF example, there were 3 rounds of 20 minutes each. You can control that by hours and control that by days as well. And I'm just going to click continue here. Now, here's the price guidance round. So let me explain a little bit about what that is. The price guidance round is an additional round of bidding at the end of the event where a supplier can match the approximation. And I say the approximation because they're not going to exactly know who the front runner's pricing is. The supplier will able to match the approximation of the front runner's price. So this gives the suppliers that are invited to that bid, maybe a couple of the ones that are not in the front of the pack, an opportunity to sharpen their pencil a little bit and make one last ditch effort in coming back and trying to win that business. And again, right here, the BidOps AI engine will suggest the above format for your event. Based on the information you provided, this is where the AI will kick in and suggest the format for your event. You can alter this format now, so we can actually change the structure while we're here or at any point before starting the event. Click on continue. And now we're done, and now we're actually going to move on to the dashboard for this bid. Okay. And here's the dashboard. So this basically gives you the foundation of the bid that we just built. The title and description. The bid is in open status right now. If you click on type, you'll be able to see the type of contract, the length of the contract, start date of the contract, and you'll also be able to see the category that we've chosen for that contract. Also with the information icon here that you might need to refer back to. And as I pointed out, you can actually edit anything in the contract before it's actually issued and suppliers are invited to bid. You can make changes here. Okay. Once the bidding starts, the clock will start. So you'll be able to look at the status of the bid here and see how many days are left in the negotiation. The suppliers will be able to see the same. And once suppliers start responding to the invitation, you'll actually see these fields here populate. Based upon how aggressive they are in bidding and whether or not they're meeting all of your terms and conditions, you will be able to see which suppliers are shortlisted amongst the suppliers that have been invited and how many organizations are actually ready to start engaging with you. You'll be able to put some details in here for the documents that are requested. Suppliers can upload their documents into the platform, and your buying team and your stakeholders can do the same. So you're also looking at a full-blown CRM where you can actually manage all of your information in the platform itself. There's no need to go outside of the platform to be able to manage all of this content. Okay. Now let me talk about tasks. It's important that you're able to, for the buying team, to manage all of the different tasks that are relative to each bid. We actually have some defaults that are built in here. They're just basically common, common bidding and negotiation defaults. Inviting your teammates and stakeholders to the bid. You'll be able to invite your teammates and stakeholders to collaborate on the planning and execution of the request. You'll be able to set deadlines. You'll be able to assign this task to buyers only or suppliers only. And you'll also be able to allow all your suppliers to be able to review it, or you'll be able to go into your list of buyers, and pick which stakeholders on your team will have a lens into this bid. This gives you a status of the task. Here, you'll be able to upload supplier documents here as well. Let me get an escape here. Here's the list of shortlist suppliers, finalizing the event details, and inviting additional suppliers to the bid. Now, you'll be able to add your own tasks here to add some custom tasks if necessary. You'll also be able to see which tasks are in progress, which are completed, and we haven't done any of those yet. And if you want to eliminate some tasks from this particular bid, you can archive them here. You have the ability to see this in a list format, but also for me, I'm a very visual guy. I like to be able to look at things in terms of like a project management view. So you'll be able to go in and have a calendar snapshot of each task when they're scheduled, and you'll be able to invite the suppliers to be able to do the same thing so they can keep track of this. You can show tasks for everyone, show your tasks only if you're trying to manage your own calendar and leave everyone else out, buyers only, and suppliers only. Doing a time check here. I think we've got 15 minutes left.
Yep.
So this is the request format. This is what the format of the bid looks like, where you build your bid. So you can see, again, the basic parameters of the bidding event that we've already set up. Here is where you can actually indicate a targeted savings that you want to get. So what's going to happen here is immediately when suppliers start responding to this bid, if you're putting a targeted savings down there, it's actually going to push out to those suppliers, what they need to be aiming for. So any suppliers that respond to this pricing that do not hit that threshold are going to be actually ruled out of the competition. Start time and end time. Okay. And then you can also actually go in and look at any additional value-based requirements that you've built into here. So let's also drill down into line items. Lots and line items, this is going to give you the ability to be able to do two things. One, you can manually actually schedule the line items that are relevant to this bid. So if you've got, why would you want to do that manually? If you've got 20 items that are involved in this bid, that's a no-brainer. You can easily do that manually. But if you have 4,000 line items, as they did in the BASF bid, you can actually go in here, you can see this widget here, and you can import and export data in the form of CSV files. So you'll be able to upload the thousands of line items into the platform rather than have to do all that manually. So I didn't mean to scare anyone here. Why would you want to do lots and line items? So with multiple suppliers that are actually responding to this bid, you could create a scenario where supplier X may be able to be competitive on a lot of 2,000 SKUs, but the remaining 2,000 SKUs they can't compete on. So you might want to actually split up the bid and the award to a different supplier. And let's go in and do this. So I'm going to actually create a lot, and I'll call it sorry, I'm not being very creative with my naming conventions here.
All right.
Okay. And you can see in creating that lot, it opens up the ability for me to manually add the line items that we discussed. You can actually add, let's say this is screws and 1/2 inch screws, stainless. I could put in the price per unit here. So when I buy screws, I typically buy them in boxes of 25. Let's say it's $11.49 per unit. Okay, the items per unit would be the box size in this case, and then the quantity per box. I'm sorry, the 25 here, and the quantity that I want to order is 5,000. Okay. Actually having some problems with screen share delays. Sorry about that, guys. And then also here, you'll be able to add kind of value-based criteria that are non-pricing related criteria that are specific to this bid. So if you want to add like terms and conditions, let's say tune at 30. Okay, you can add that here. So if they're able to meet those terms and conditions, a discount of 5%. And then perhaps even things like free delivery. For a threshold of, say, $3,000. And you'll be able to save that. Any questions about any of that before I go on to the next piece, Mike?
I don't have any questions for it so far. I guess one of my questions would be, well, you're gonna show us how you invite suppliers, right?
Yeah.
All
I will
right.
show you how to invite suppliers.
Just want to
So
make
let's
sure.
go.
Just
Let's
wanna
actually
make
do.
sure.
I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to make sure we got 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that you're aware where we're at.
Yep. Thank you. So let's talk about inviting people here. So clicking on the collaborators tab, these are your internal stakeholders. You can actually invite collaborators, from your team.
Yep.
You can also invite by email. So again, to save you time from doing all the manual stuff, if you have a list of emails, you can actually cut and paste that list and parse it by semicolon, and you can add them all to the to field here. And once you click the add button, it will invite those collaborators to participate in this particular bid.
Okay.
And the same is true for suppliers. Okay, so here you can actually add specific individuals. You can also add organizations. And I'm going to open up the supplier database that we have here. And you'll see that we have individuals and suppliers that are actually built into the demo platform. And once you click on adding each of those suppliers, they will receive an email to respond to the pricing and all the terms and conditions that are in your bid. If you haven't collaborated with them before, you can also add them, as I explained in the as I showed you in the, you can add them manually, but you can also add them by uploading a group of emails and contact information. Again, talking about being a full repository for all the data relative to each bid, you will be able to upload documents, both supplier documents and buyer documents, throughout the bidding process. I don't want to miss talking to you about the conversations piece here, because that's critical. We talk about the ability for buyers and suppliers to communicate throughout the process. And I'm going to click on an existing request. And you'll see here that conversations are actually recorded throughout the process of the bid. So any responses that suppliers respond to, or invitations from one buyer, or communications from one buyer in a one-to-one relationship with a supplier, you'll be able to track all that information in here and archive it for future use and reference. So there's no more having to go back into emails and see kind of who said what to who and when. You'll have a full repository of all conversations between buyer to buyer, buyer to supplier, and you'll be able to maintain all of that within the platform itself. Here is the supplier database, and you'll see that that's broken out. You'll be able to look at it two ways. You'll be able to see individual names specifically, okay, and you'll also be able to see organizations. So one thing I want to point out, let me see if I could bring up. Okay, so you're going to see here for each supplier that's in here, you'll have the same type of a metric for the individuals. You'll see an engagement score. Okay, that's actually part of the scoring and being able to provide that information to you, so you can see benchmarking one supplier against another. You can also sort up or down on these metrics. But again, looking at these numbers, Garcia Hunter, the name of that organization, is fully engaged in communicating with you through their bids. So you'll be able to actually look at suppliers here and start making some determinations as to who's going to be shortlisted here. So not only is this a combination of who is it giving us the best price, but who is most responsive to all of our terms and conditions within a particular bid. So let me open Garcia Hunter. And you remember when I talked about giving our suppliers a classification or a persona? You will see here that being a 100% engaged supplier, no surprise here that Garcia Hunter is a harmonizing supplier. And again, if you look at the information button here, we classify that supplier as a harmonizer because they generally accepted all of our suggested prices in the bid, and their main interest is in building and maintaining a valued and trusted relationship. Okay, we can actually do the same for each of the individuals that are involved in that bid. And if you want to break down the bid and see what the savings were and what the baseline spend is, you'll be able to do that by looking at the structure here. And last but not least, let me bring up my team. Okay, this is your team dashboard, and it allows you to add and permission what your team members on your buying group, your stakeholders, will be able to see. So admins are going to have a lot of the visibility into the bids that they themselves are not a part of. So they're kind of like a team manager or a team lead. Members are your buyers and sourcing managers that are doing the work, driving the RFP through the process. You can invite new users to a bid by email. And again, that's actually going to give you another way of adding people that you want to communicate with through the conversation platform here. And then last but not least, we do have a help icon here. There's going to be a list of articles that we post. I think we're posting on average about 30 or 40 articles a month. And that'll be able to do some searching on specific types of issues or concerns or how to do things. We're also going to be adding FAQs to this as well. And then over here is the ability to communicate directly with our customer success team through our intercom link. And typically we're able to respond to any inquiries or requests for help within 24 hours. And that's the ballgame.
Can I ask you a quick question around savings calculation, Michael?
Yeah.
So you denoted a couple of times that the system is like you're inputting in that you're looking for a 5% savings, right? And when you're starting off the bid process, how does the supplier know what to measure that 5% against? Or is it against first bid? Is it against retail? Is it against previous contract? What is the initial benchmark that they're looking to get?
It's actually
savings.
When you collect all the supplier data, okay, you're actually going to establish a baseline based upon the responses to that data that's brought into the platform. A baseline will develop from that, or you can establish your own baseline. And the 5% is going to be off of that. So you'll be able to understand where the suppliers rank based upon that number. Okay.
So what you're saying is you're looking for a 5% savings opportunity below the aggregate mean of the group.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. And then it's taking that into account as it calculates out the scoring mechanism for that vendor as you go forward down the path.
100% correct. Not just the pricing, that's a part of it, but all of the other non-pricing related requirements that you've put out there. How are they responding to those requirements? Not just how are they responding, are they saying yes or no, kind of like in a bonus malus format, but yes or no, or how quickly are they responding to that? So if you set a threshold for 20-minute response time on a specific requirement, the supplier that responds to that within that threshold is going to be ranked higher from a persona standpoint than a supplier that takes 2 days.
Yep. Yeah, I understand. All right. Really interesting stuff, man. I haven't seen a lot of demos in the automated bid space. Certainly not ones with AI intelligence behind them. So thank you for running that through us. Running us through all of that.
Thank you.
Let me just ask the group any questions. We're kind of at time here at 2 o'clock. Anybody have any real quick questions for Michael? If you do, I can get them out there. If not, just a reminder that BidOps has a channel inside of Procurement Foundry. You can certainly follow up with Michael and the team inside of BidOps. If you want to have more discussions with them, you can have more discussions with them on this solution and get more background as to how the solution could work for you as well as your team. And Michael and the team at BidOps are monitoring that channel all the time. So I think it looks like it doesn't. Oh, wait a minute. Oh no, people got to run, Mike. It's getting a little bit
Okay.
on time. So
Feel free to give them my email address. I'm happy to talk with people on email or my phone number. Happy to converse.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Like I said earlier, we've got this recorded. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut out the first 5 minutes of me just sitting in my office. We'll bring this back down, throw in a couple of graphics on this, and we're gonna post it up on our YouTube channel, as well as inside of the Procurement Foundry's content channel, so that everybody inside of the Foundry has access to this and they can pull it up and take a look at it. Hopefully cutting down on your time as well, Michael. And maybe you can get some pre-qualified knowledge for you before they come and engage with you inside of your channel. So I think that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Really appreciate it. Michael, thank you for your team for setting this all up. Really appreciate you coming in and showing us your system today. And we'll definitely be in touch. We got another piece of content coming up next week on a webinar. So I'm really excited about that as well.